Qantas shares trading in Sydney this morning, and Qantas at last check was falling over in the Australian session. Yep, down close to 3% so far. Now, Australia's labour regulator has had to step in to the airline's pay dispute after talks between management and the unions failed to reach an agreement by yesterday's deadline. Fair Work Australia will now impose a deal. Chief Executive Alan Joyce says Qantas is assessing the financial impact of this dispute and will come back when it has more details. He says the referee's decision should be final.
It really should be up to the unions to say, let's bring this to a close. Let the independent arbitrator decide. Why are they so worried about what the independent arbitrator is going to come out with? They shouldn't be. If they're fair and reasonable, and the demands are fair and reasonable, they shouldn't be worried about this going to arbitration. And we call on them to pull back on all legal action, allow this to go to the arbitrator, and recognise the final decision of the umpire and say it's all over. That's what Qantas is doing. That's what the unions should do.
Okay, so the decision now rests in the arbitrator's hands. And earlier on this morning, I spoke to Australia's Industrial Relations Minister, Chris Evans, and I began by asking him for the government's reaction to this ongoing dispute.
It's a very bitter dispute. It's one that the parties couldn't reach agreement on, and therefore it's gone to compulsory arbitration. So the bans on any action, either in terms of a lockout or strike, remains, and the Fair Work Australia, the independent industrial umpire, will make a ruling on all claims, and they will strike a arrangement which will last for the next 3 years as an enterprise agreement. So all industrial action remains on halt, and there'll be compulsory arbitration of all matters.
Minister Evans, are you surprised that it's come to this, meaning that we had basically 800 flights being grounded last week, 80,000 passengers stranded around the world, and now we have Fair Work Australia having to step in?
We think Fair Work Australia having to step in is the right answer, in the sense that if the parties can't reach a sensible negotiation, then that's what's got to happen. We were very firmly of that view, and that's why we intervened to make sure that happened. But it is disappointing that Qantas took the decision to lock out its employees. There had been industrial action which had been damaging them, but we regarded that as a fairly extreme measure. It inconvenienced many passengers, and I think it's done them, their reputation, a great deal of harm. But I think now at least they can progress, and the unions can progress on the basis that there will be an arbitrated decision. And most importantly, the flying public, the tourism industry, can all be assured that Qantas will be flying as per normal, and that there will be no threat to their services.
You know, Mr. Evans, I have to ask you how you think this dispute is going to end up.
Well, look, I think the reality is now that there will be an arbitrated decision, and the parties will have to live with that for the next 3 years. I think they were relatively close on many matters. The major issue at stake for the trade unions has been the issue of job security as Qantas diversifies its operations. Some of those matters will get addressed in the arbitration, but I think all parties would have been better off reaching a negotiated settlement. As I say, I think that would have helped start the process of rebuilding trust. But the Fair Work Australia, the independent umpire, will make a decision. I'm sure it will be fair and balanced, and the parties will have to accept that decision because that's the law.